Hello 8th graders. In this video we're going to take a look at IXL's assignment I.2, the one called Write Equations for Proportional Relationships from Tables. Before we dive into this, equations can be tough, they can be difficult to write, but I think there's a simple way to view equations that makes writing them a little bit easier. Equations are really just rules on what we can do to one variable, usually x, in order to find another variable, usually y. So here, my first note really in blue that I'm going to focus on, when I'm trying to write equations, I need to ask myself, what do I need to do to x in order to find y? And once I can see that pattern in the table or on the graph or whatever data I have, once I know what I do to x every time to get to y, then I just translate that sentence or that idea into a math equation. Let me show you what I mean. Here for this first problem, we could dive into the details, but these are all going to be proportional relationships between two variables. In this case, somebody's painting and we're looking at the comparison between the cans of black paint they use and the cans of white paint they use. And in these proportional relationships, I'm looking for a consistent pattern, and what I see here is every time if I take the y and divide by x, I always get 2. 2 divided by 1, if I were to, and let's put some notes on this, if I were to do 2 divided by 1, 1 second here. Switch to the brush. If I do 2 divided by 1, this first data point here in blue, I'm going to get the ratio 2 to 1. Same thing if I go to the bottom one. Let's switch our color over to green maybe. If I did 10 divided by 5, I'm going to still get that same ratio of 2 to 1. So really, the rule here is multiply x by 2 and you find y. If I take a look at this table, every single one of these x's, if I multiply by 2, it's going to get me to y. So if that's my rule, my understanding, I need to take x, multiply it by 2, and I get to y, then my equation, quite simply, is just going to be y will be equal to, or I can find y, by taking x and multiplying it by 2. Now in math, we don't write x times 2. There's a simpler way to show x times 2, so we'll write our equation as y equals 2x. And what we're going to start to see, we'll go ahead and mark this next one up here as well, is that every proportional relationship takes a simple form of y equals k times x. Whatever that constant of proportionality is, you multiply that constant ratio with x and it always gives you y. So here we see if we look for that constant of proportionality, here we're looking at socks that are purchased and how many dollars are spent on it. And I see the first row 4 divided by 1. If we were to do 4 divided by 1, we would just get, at the end of the day, all we're going to get is 4. And then if I pick a different row in the table, maybe this last row here, and we'll switch our color over to blue. If I do 20 divided by 5, I'm going to get that same ratio, the same simplified 4 over 1. So for all of these, we see this is proportional because y divided by x is always equal to 4. Or in other words, if we take the socks and multiply by 4, if I know that pairs of socks, 3 pairs of socks times 4 equals 12, we realize the rule here. Let's go ahead and modify our old rule down here. If we multiply x by 4 in this case, then we're always going to find y. If we multiply the x by 4, we're always going to find our y. So our equation here, if I want to find y, it's equal to x multiplied by 4. And the simple way to write that in math is y equals 4x, which means 4 multiplied with whatever x is. So again, we see our constant ratio just takes the place of k, and it makes our equations pretty simple. You should be good to work on your own. I'm going to show a couple more challenging ones, so we're going to jump ahead to a few higher level problems on IXL if you're getting stuck on some of the trickier ones. Some of them will ask you if there is a proportional relationship in the table before they have you trying to find an equation. And that's simply kind of what we showed before. If you let me clean up my screen again. If I do y divided by x, for example, if I go ahead and do 27 divided by 3, that gives me a ratio here of 9 tiles for every 1 foot. And the same thing if I come down here and I do 90 divided by 10, that's also going to give me a ratio of, that'll simplify to just be 9 over 1. Every y divided by x data point here is in the same 9 to 1 ratio. So that's how I tell if a table is proportional or not. When I'm given data points, I just see does y maintain the same ratio to x. And now, of course, once I know that 9 to 1 ratio, my equation isn't difficult. X is always multiplied by 9 to get y. So our equation is y equals 9x. Towards the more difficult ones, they might give you ones that are not proportional. So that's an example there. I want to keep moving. If we get to the challenge zone, I assume they're going to give us, nope, same situation in the challenge zone. Just run through, figure out if it's proportional or not, and then if it is proportional, they'll have you write an equation. Hope this video was helpful. If you need any help, as always, send me an email. That email address, which we'll put on the screen right now in green. If I could figure that out. I can't figure out how to write the email address, but it's ddoherty3 at Boston Public Schools. And I think you're good to go because I've shown that a bunch of times.